All right. Well, with that, it is 5 o'clock. So let's go ahead and get started because we got sort of a busy schedule and I have to pack up and make sure we can get over to the city council meeting by 6 o'clock. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. My name is Gary Vaughn. I'm the district director for District 54 of Toastmasters. For those that may not know what Toastmasters is, it's an international organization that centers around communication and leadership. And it just so happened to have its roots right here in Bloomington, Illinois. But I'm going to let others share about that as we go. One thing I want to mention to all the speakers that's going to be speaking, we are recording this for the historian that had this plaque made. So we're probably going to pass around some of these microphones. So if you see me handing them and passing them, no worries. We're just going to try and give something for our historian. With that, I'm going to start introducing some of the folks. And I'm going to first introduce my program quality director. She is over all of the education training of all the Toastmasters in our district. And she really has been a great help this year. And she's going to start introducing our first speaker. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Wendy Pesavento, DTM, our program quality director.
Thank you, Mr. District Director. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Yes. All right. For those of you who may not know, Toastmasters International is a public speaking and leadership organization with over 270,000 members in 150 countries worldwide. All Toastmasters attend club meetings and grow through experiential learning, peer feedback, and mentoring. The affairs of Toastmasters International are conducted by and under the direction of a board of directors. As a member of the Toastmasters International Board of Directors, Srinivas Sainini is a working ambassador for the organization. He works with the board to develop, support, and modify the policies and procedures that guide Toastmasters International in fulfilling its mission. Srinivas Sainini, DTM, has worked in the telecommunications industry for over 24 years, leading strategic initiatives, delivering high-impact solutions for customers across the globe. A Toastmaster since 2006, Sainini has held several high-profile leadership positions within Toastmasters and has attained the rank of Distinguished Toastmaster, the highest level of educational achievement attainable within our organization. Fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, please join me in welcoming Distinguished Toastmaster and International Director, Srinivas Sainini. There you go. Yeah, Gary, I'll sit this here.
Thank you, Madam Program Quality Director, fellow dignitaries, esteemed Toastmasters, and fellow future Toastmasters. They say what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But what happens in Bloomington goes around the world, changes the world, and then comes back around and becomes a monument of making great ideas happen. Great ideas that change the world don't usually come from big cities like Chicago, New York. They usually come from cities with heart, from the heartland of America, like Bloomington. In 1905, Dr. Alcee Smedley was the secretary at the YMCA. And if I could picture some old Ford cars, I don't know if there are some buggies around there, I don't know. But apparently on the second floor is where his office was. And he saw a lot of people like him who had a lot of ideas, but not enough practice to express. He found a need. And then he pitched this idea to citizens of Bloomington. And they actually took him up on it, right? If he had done this in a busy city like New York, people would not have given him the time of the day, right? Because this was Bloomington, he made it happen. And what he noticed that, so he figured out there has to be a name for it, right? So everybody knows what a toast is. So he came up with the name Toastmasters. And what he noticed is when people learn by doing, and when people learn through constructive criticism of peers, they kind of make a lasting impact. And what he saw was people were not there just for getting to be a better speaker. It was enriching their day-to-day life. And he wanted this experience to go far out in the whole world. And what started in a small room up there is now in 145 countries, over 270,000 members, and about 14,000 clients. Just like life, Toastmasters also went through some hard periods during World War. They had to, because a lot of Toastmasters had to go join the war. Toastmasters kind of took a backseat, but in an amazing way, it actually traveled overseas during World War. Actually, in Germany, in a prisoner of war camp, they had an ad hoc Toastmasters club that kind of gave them meaning to their lives. And then lo and behold, the pandemic happened in 2020, and the people in world headquarters of Toastmasters didn't think that we were going to last as an organization. But they made a decision to meet online, and that opened up doors. Now, with the click of a mouse, you can go to Italy, you can go to Germany. So the world of Toastmasters opened up, and it kind of, people were isolated during that time, and it gave them an opportunity to meet online with people all over the world. There was a time when women were not allowed in Toastmasters. And Dr. Ralston saw that, and he formed a Toastmasters club at that time. It was a start, right? It was a start. And then women were allowed in 1973. They made in a business meeting, they allowed women. And now, in our centennial year last year, 2024, the top 3 leaders of Toastmasters are all women: the past president, the president, and president-elect. So I want to congratulate fellow citizens of Bloomington and also visitors of Bloomington to kind of see this great idea live, right? So I'm going to give you an invisible toast. Let 1,000 ideas bloom from Bloomington. 1,000 ideas like this bloom from Bloomington. Let 1,000 Toastmasters Club ideas also bloom from Bloomington. And let Gary Vaughn someday become the international president of Toastmasters.
A campaign starts here.
With that, I'm going to pass it back on to you. Sorry.
There you go.
Come on up. Actually, I did the right thing. To the future president of Toastmasters.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to steal your microphone from you. And we've heard from Toastmasters. Thank you for representing Toastmasters well in this ceremony. But Toastmasters is not the only organization that really helped Ralph Smedley get this idea off and running. If it hadn't been for his participation in the YMCA, this idea may have never arrived. It may have never grown. So we reached out to the YMCA because we also wanted to honor their efforts and what they do in the community. And I want to introduce the Chief Operating Officer, Patrick Maneri. Say that correctly?
Very well, yeah.
All right. He serves as the Chief Operating Officer for the Bloomington Normal YMCA. Patrick has served his local community through the YMCA in 4 states since 2003, mostly during the summers when he was on summer break from his teaching career as a band director and a school administrator. In 2022, Patrick began full-time service at the Bloomington YMCA. So with that, please help me introduce Patrick Maneri. And I have a microphone for you. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate that. Let me get geared up here. Just a couple of notes. First and foremost, I'm grateful to be here. Our CEO is traveling today with his son to go to a college visit. So I am the send-in for BJ. Many of you know BJ. He wishes he could be here to celebrate with all of you. On behalf of the Bloomington Normal Y, a very special thank you to Gary and Toastmasters for the opportunity to participate in today's celebratory events. The YMCA in Bloomington Normal has 170 years of rich history and firsts for our community. It's one of those that we pride ourselves in is Toastmasters International being the pinnacle of those firsts, international influence that we've talked about so well. Thank you for that. In 1903, the Bloomington YMCA hired Dr. Smedley as the education director. That would be much like what we would call a program director these days. And as you heard, his title was secretary, which back in the day in the YMCAs, that would be like the program director. Dr. Smedley saw a need to help boys and young men become proficient speakers, and in 1905 hosted the first Toastmasters Club meeting. At the time, local businessmen would judge speeches by Dr. Smedley's students at the YMCA here. Sadly, in 1907, due to some differences in leadership, Dr. Smedley left the Bloomington YMCA and took a job at the Freeport YMCA in Freeport, Illinois. There he started another Toastmasters Club. His final stop along the trek was in Santa Ana, California, where Toastmasters officially claimed as Club One, and the rest is history. Throughout the Toastmasters journey, the YMCA has always been a place where we can support these types of initiatives for our community, because that's what we focus on, is starting at the ground roots of community. Like the YMCA, Toastmasters International fosters a caring, supportive, encouraging, and uplifting environment where all are welcome. On behalf of the Bloomington Normal YMCA, we thank you again for this opportunity to be here and celebrate alongside of you with this impressive history. And please know the Y stands committed to helping Toastmasters advance any strategic initiatives that you may not have right now and into the future. We also appreciate hosting at the new facility the meetings that so many of you partake in, and we hope that you enjoy that new space for you guys to continue to grow. Thank you for your time. Again, thanks for the invite and the amazing work that Toastmasters is doing internationally. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for that representation from the YMCA.
You're welcome, Gary. Thanks.
There is one more representation that we're going to have today, and this is due to the Toastmaster historian that had the plaque commissioned and hung. His name was Bob Palmer. He currently lives out in California. And when he was doing his research and found out that the first Toastmasters meeting was held here, he had this plaque commissioned, but unfortunately he didn't have a proper dedication at that time. When we reached out to Bob, we asked him, if you wanted a dedication to occur, who would you want involved? He mentioned the YMCA, he mentioned Toastmasters at an international level, but there was one more community that he wanted us to reach out to, and that was the McLean County Historical Society. See, he worked a lot with the society to come up with the research and found out the information about Toastmasters. So representing that society is Bill Kemp, and he is representing the nonprofit McLean County Museum of History as their librarian. So please help me introduce librarian Bill Kemp.
Well, thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
I'm honestly not going to take too much of your time. You've already been patient enough, and the speakers have really been wonderful. It's no surprise to me, I've been in the business here as librarian of the museum for 21 years, that Toastmasters International was born here in Bloomington, because we know when it comes to U.S. history, seemingly all roads eventually pass through the Twin Cities. No, maybe not. It all started with Ralph C. Smedley, as we've learned from our previous speakers. He was an Illinois Wesleyan University graduate. That's kind of how he ended up here. And then, as we know, he became the educational director at the local Y. A little bit about this building, though. Second floor, 120 years ago, Toastmasters is born. But what a lovely building of the type that is just never constructed today. It was originally known as the Harbor Brothers Building, built in 1896. So it survives the Great Bloomington Fire of June 19th, 1900. So it's an old building for downtown Bloomington. If you look at its facade, you'll see 4 pilasters. Those are those columns. They're not load-bearing columns. They're just for decorative purposes. And then above that is a beautiful corbelled brick cornice, right? And a decorative tin above that, right? This is a reminder of a time of a craftsmanship and quality materials that were the rule, not the exception as they are today, right? Well, anyway, as we have heard, Ralph Smedley organizes the Toastmasters in 1905 right here. It's originally a boys' club, right? It doesn't become an adult men's club until he's in Freeport, Illinois, a few years later. The boys cook their own dinner, and they're charged a small fee for each dinner, which is 15 cents. But as I always say, adjust for inflation, right? That'd be about $5 today. So nothing to sneeze at. And some of the early members included Archie Schaefer, who becomes a really distinguished local architect. So the influence of the Toastmasters, right, is seen from the get-go, right? Even before there's a Toastmasters International, right? Interestingly, though, it is George Sutton, the general secretary of the Y, who I think comes up with the name Toastmasters, and then Mr. Smedley adopts that, right? The idea, right, of course, to improve public speaking skills, but it's much more than that, right? It promotes socialization and camaraderie, which we've heard about, promotes self-esteem, and public speaking is a valuable skill regardless of what career you go into or what livelihood you may have. I'm a librarian, and public speaking is part of my job, right? And as Mr. Smedley moved out to California, I think of him as kind of a Johnny Appleseed, right? Establishing clubs here and there. What he did was wonderful, but not unusual, right? For in the turn of the last century, this is what American citizens did, right? They organized politically, socially, religiously, in any way they could and in any shape or form, right? And in Bloomington, we're in many ways the buckle of that, because a national periodical or publication once dubbed the Twin Cities, Bloomington and Normal, as the community or city of clubs, right? We had a national reputation for this kind of thing. We had 2 universities. We were relatively small and relatively affluent when it came to a city of this size. And what did we also have? Plenty of educated women. And during the time of patriarchy, women were very limited as far as what they could do, right? So joining a club and becoming active that way was a natural route. So at one time, there were dozens and dozens and dozens more of societies and alliances and groups and associations and afternoon teas and leagues, you name it, all sorts of organizations. There was the Amateur Musical Club, the Independent Order of Odd Fellows, the Longfellow Club, the Knights of Pythias, the Margaret Fuller Club, the Ancient Order of Hibernians, the Modern Woodmen, the 4 O'Clock Club, which I hope met at 4 o'clock, county and township home bureaus for farm wives, right? And on, right? Many of these groups were locally born. Some of them survive today, while others were larger or tied to a national organization, right? But this again is what was occurring in the 19th and into much of the 20th century. But sadly, I think, as a society, as a Western society, we don't join such clubs and endeavors or efforts as we used to, right? Heck, as late as the 1970s, again, there were dozens and dozens of what? Bowling leagues, dozens and dozens of leagues in the Twin Cities alone, and hundreds of teams, right? Today, as one social scientist noted just a while back, Americans now too often what? Bowl alone, right? When we used to bowl in leagues and teams, right? Perhaps it's a good time to reflect on this loss of vitality and meaning as we as a people continue to turn away from more communitarian structured ways of living to ways more individualistic, right? Too many of us spend our weekday evenings and weekends where? At home on the living room couch, streaming this, binging that, scrolling on our phones far, far too much. Perhaps Ralph Smedley and his era have some lessons for us digital natives today, and it is this: put the phone down and turn off the screens and join a local club like Toastmasters or join the Y and make some new friends and help enrich this wonderful place we call home. Thank you.
I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our District 54 District Director and soon to be International Director, which I just learned about today. He really doesn't need an introduction, but here I am. One of the things I want to point out is his dedication to getting this dedication ceremony put together ever since he heard about that plaque being put up. Also, when we were at the international conference, everyone who mentioned it was the 100-year anniversary of Toastmasters, Gary made a point of saying, but it started in Bloomington. Everyone knows that now, and he's done such a great job championing this dedication.
Thank you, Estelle. And for those that don't know who Estelle is our club growth director. For a little bit of information, at the district level, we have what's known as the trio. We have the district director, which basically I'm a glorified cheerleader to the two people that work very hard in the district. I introduced Wendy Pesavato earlier as our program quality director over training and development. But Wendy, Estelle here, I'm going to get it right. All year long, I've been confusing the two because they've worked so hard. Estelle here is our club growth director, which means that she goes out and helps foster ideas for new clubs, help get that process going so that we can get a good diversity of clubs within our district. And she's doing a great job today. Well, with that, thank you everyone for coming today. It was an absolute honor to stand before you today as we dedicate this plaque to commemorate a moment in history that changed the world of communication and leadership. For those that don't know, I'm going to read the plaque real quickly. It says, the Harbor Building. We heard from our historian about this building. Former home of the Bloomington YMCA, Bloomington area native and founder of Toastmasters International, Ralph C. Smedley, started the very first Toastmasters Club here on March 24th, 1905. That was 120 years ago. And as you can see today, Toastmasters is still going strong off of that simple idea that people needed to learn and grow in their communication and leadership abilities. Over the 100 years now, Toastmasters has empowered individuals to find their voice, to lead with confidence, and to inspire others. What began as a local initiative has now touched millions of lives over 149 countries, shaping leaders, communities, and transforming nervous speakers like myself into powerful communicators. Today, we celebrate not just a plaque, but the enduring legacy of an organization that continues to uplift and empower. Now, we've talked a lot about the organizations that have worked on this, but I do want to give one more person the honor that they so richly deserve, and that is the Toastmaster historian, Bob Palmer. For those that don't know, Bob Palmer has been a Toastmaster for a very long time, and he lives out in California near one of the very first Toastmasters club's homes. Bob has been a very invaluable historian to Toastmasters, coming up and finding a lot of information that we did not know or that was lost to history. And one of those was where the first Toastmasters meeting was held. When he began this research, he found this building, he found this community, and he put it upon himself to have this plaque commissioned in 2020. Upon that commissioning, he flew all the way out here from California, but due to COVID restrictions, he was not allowed to have a group of people here with him on that day. So I don't want to say sadly, but it was a little sad that he came all the way out to California, installed this plaque, took a selfie with the plaque by himself, and then flew all the way back to California. When we found that out this year, we reached out to Bob and we asked him, Bob, what would you want if you had a proper dedication? And I mentioned it earlier, he wanted representation from the YMCA, the community in the Historical Society, and Toastmasters International. Even though Bob could not be here today, we are recording it for him, and we want to let him know that we are honoring his dedication to Toastmasters in the way he asked. And we thank you, Bob, for your dedication to this event. And I want to thank everybody here for helping us celebrate this dedication of this plaque on the 120th anniversary of that first club meeting. Now, with that, before we go, since I am recording this, can we get just a small round of applause for our historian, Bob Palmer? Thank you, Bob. Now, this is going to conclude this portion of the ceremony, but we're not done yet. I don't know if I haven't said it enough, but I do repeat a whole lot. But we also reached out to the city of Bloomington because we wanted to ensure that the community at large was apprised of this event. And our mayor has been gracious enough to decide to make a mayoral proclamation declaring March 24th Toastmasters International Day here in Bloomington Normal. So at the city council meeting at 6 o'clock, our mayor is going to read and present that proclamation to us so that we can celebrate this each year and remember the efforts of Ralph C. Smedley. So with that, you are all invited to the council meeting. It's up at the government building. I can give you the details in just a little bit, but it'll happen right at the beginning of the meeting. So don't worry, you don't have to sit through the entire city council meeting to hear that. They'll do roll call, start it out, and then that's one of the first agenda items. But with that, I want to thank everybody here. Again, I want to thank our international director, Serena Sanini, for representation from our organization, Toastmasters International. I want to thank Patrick Maneri from our YMCA here. And I finally want to thank Bill Kemp from our Historical Society to make sure that this was all possible. And thank every one of you for attending today. Thank you.